I think one of the advantages is the connectivity with your other classmates. I think it's and the teacher.
Easier than having like all my books in my bag, and that it definitely makes the entire class more focused and more ready to learn.
The fact that my backpack doesn't weigh 20 pounds with all the paper that would be accumulating over the year, right now it's just, in my backpack is my iPad, and I think that's it, my iPad.
Well, one of the great things about the iPad is that you're basically able to access anything at any given time. So if a student mentions something in class that I either don't understand or don't know, I can go onto Safari and then I can search it.
I think that having something so compact and everything being on there and not having to have like loose papers around is a lot easier to manage, and it's lighter and it's more interesting when you're doing work. It's easier to like look at, not as boring.
They're really helpful for taking notes, especially like in classrooms. Like I'm in AP Environmental Science, and we go through slides and slides of notes, and it's a lot easier to take them on the iPad. So I think that's definitely an advantage.
iBooks, I really enjoy.
iAnnotate is a really good app because it helps, it makes it easier for like students to understand say an essay, and like the comments a teacher would have towards their essay and like the way it's graded, it's easier.
My biggest one for like educational purposes is Notability. I can write notes, I can draw diagrams, I can type notes. It's such a good app for classes like physics and math where there's a lot of diagrams and a lot of formulas that I have to write down that I can't necessarily do on the keyboard.
I think the productivity apps from Apple, meaning Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, are extremely helpful, so I can type up any document or create any PowerPoint using those apps. I also find iBooks to be extremely helpful because I can basically just go through any book, I can highlight things, I can take notes, make flashcards, search things I don't understand, and I also find iAnnotate to be extremely helpful, so I can read my teacher's comments when he marks up my essays.
I think Notability is the best app actually, because the note taking is like really good because you can type or you can draw, and it makes writing the notes a lot easier.
I think iBooks is really helpful because we get sent a lot of different things to organize for our essays, and I get to put them in different folders and see which readings I need for what, and it's really helpful.
iBooks, just for, the same reasons that I think that highlighting on an iBook, if I want to find a specific text, I can search that text within the book and it will take me right to it. I think the whole process is a lot quicker. And I think that, one day if we can get to the point where everyone just carries an iPad, and that is your one utensil for the entire year that you have to utilize, I think that would be the best situation, because I think that it would create an environment where everything was quick and everything was intuitive and everything was done in an intellectual way, and there was kind of no stopping. It would be very organic.
I prefer iBooks because it's easy to just look up definitions right in a reading and highlight whatever you want and like write your own notes, whereas in a textbook that's given by the school you can't do that.
From the experience I've had with iBooks, I really like them. They're a lot more interactive, and they just make reading something that could potentially be quite boring a lot more interesting.
iBooks, definitely, because you can, instead of like making Post-its and putting it in a book or any of that, you can add notes in it and mark pages and important things, highlight things, and it's all in there, and it's really convenient.
I do prefer iBooks over traditional text because it allows me to highlight and take notes and search things that I don't understand right within the app. And it's very engaging as well. You can see all kinds of videos and all kinds of different pictures and multimedia, which really helps you understand things better.
I prefer iBooks because you can also highlight and make notes throughout the chapters, and you can go back to it really easily. It's easy to find.
In the beginning, they were very indifferent about it, didn't really think it was useful or anything, but when I explained to them and showed them everything that we've been using it for and what we've been doing on it, they thought it was a great idea.
My parents were positive toward. They were welcoming to the idea of an iPad. I think they were skeptical, like any other parent, when a school goes under it's a big change going from textbook and notebooks to an iPad. It's not a small transition, a big transition. But I think they welcomed it.
My parents definitely liked the idea because they feel that like if we have this technology, we might as well like use it in the classrooms, and if it's useful and it's helping education-wise, then we should use them.
They were on board with it. They really liked the idea. They thought that I could use the iPad to the advantage of learning, and I could do all kinds of cool things about it. They just warned me not to be distracted during class.
My parents really like the idea, especially my sister is a freshman, so she also has an iPad, and like she uses it for everything. She doesn't use binders anymore. She's like a million different folders and apps, and she loves it, and it's really helping her, and me too.
Well, my dad, being an educator as well, thought it was a great idea. He said that he would love to have it in his classroom so his kids would be interested in what he's teaching, because sometimes they're not very interested. It would definitely help him.
Yes, I think that I'm more in touch with current events than I ever really have been. I think that I can go on my internet and I can search different things and be more in touch with the internet and more news. You know, the internet is more intuitive. Not even just the iPad, but the internet is more intuitive. You can, when you search a word or a phrase, you get current news about that. And you know, sometimes unintentionally you're being exposed to news in a way that you would have never been before.
I think it has enhanced my learning experience because I feel every time going into the classroom, learning on the iPad, I'm like paying attention, I'm reading rather than listening to a teacher in the front of the room and more engaged in the lesson.
Definitely enhanced my learning experience. It's helped me have my notes organized and be able to find things and help me with my essays and everything.
I would say it has. As I mentioned before, I find it easier to go through things, to look up things that I don't understand, to find more information so I can use that information to participate in class. I can definitely create documents on it, something that I couldn't have done before, and I find it extremely, extremely helpful, and I'm glad I have it.
I could definitely say that it has.
Can you give me an example of something?
Reading books is just a lot easier because the notes and the highlighting it comes up. You can search them on the side. You can search through the book. It makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can look up things in the classroom in 5 seconds rather than trying to remember it before we go home. And yeah, just absolutely.